Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with David Breton. This is another episode of Spending Time, the Blog to Watch podcast.
That's right, second episode of this.
This would be the third actually. Second for us. Second for us.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yes,
Because you're doing one with.
We do one with Michael. We record these out of order just to confuse everyone.
And ourselves.
So the topic today is the watches from 2017 that have been the most memorable. Not the best watches, not the worst watches, but the ones that we remember. So we're just going to literally ask ourselves what watches were the most memorable from the year. Anything come to mind?
The funny thing is, you mentioned this to me that we were going to do this. And
I did. It's true.
And to be honest, I could not be bothered to think about it. I was like, if I have to think about it, that doesn't mean I remember it. It should be something that's on top of my mind, so I didn't bother. And I was like, when we were in here and we were recording...
Can I ask you other things that you were too busy to think about?
Other things I was too busy? No, I don't remember because I was too busy
I
to think about.
I see.
But there is an actual watch that I can remember, and this is pretty much...
Just one. Because we've seen... Before we talk about this, how many watches per year would you say that we touch?
I don't... Well over 100, easy.
It's got to be more. It's got to be
more.
In the hundreds.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we physically touch hundreds of new watches a year, and some years more if they release enough. We're made aware of clearly more than that. Do we know every new watch is coming out? No, there's plenty to slip through the cracks. But I'm just saying, for something to be memorable, it has to stand out from
the rest.
Hundreds of watches. Well, what's the one?
The one for me is the Sky Dweller in two-tone with yellow gold and steel. And I saw one at one of the retailers with a black dial, and that's the one for me from this year. That's the one that I actually want.
It's funny because sometimes you see a watch that isn't very special at the moment when you see it, and then later it becomes compelling to you, and other times you immediately like it and then you can't stop thinking about it, or you immediately like it and then you forget, like you're just like, whatever, I don't care anymore. Yeah. So was it love at first sight with the two-tone Sky Dweller?
It was love at first sight with the concept of them bringing it down to a much more affordable price point from the solid gold case with a leather band. I didn't like it on the leather strap. It's only about
$20,000 cheaper.
No, that much. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and so, but the one that you saw everywhere is this one
for $3,000 less gold, something like that.
No, actually, I was thinking about this. If you add up all the link in the solid center links, there's a lot of gold in them. I'm pretty sure it would make up the same amount of gold as a solid gold case.
Okay, so like...
Take a full Rolex Oyster bracelet. Take out all the center links, put them next to one another. I think it would... very close.
So the Sky Dweller came out several years ago.
Right.
All gold. And it was a cool watch, or it was an interesting new watch with a new movement, but Rolex did make a steel version. So this is the first version with any steel. 16,300 Swiss francs is the price. Look right now, because we're looking at the Rolex site. What is the price of the all gold one?
Hold
I think there's one.
Yeah, I will look it up just one second. So basically, what I wanted to say is it's the black dial, especially. I don't really like black dial watches that much, but here I saw it. You know, in all the ads, it was with a champagne dial that worked really well. Apparently with the yellow gold. But I thought, well, that's everywhere. And then I saw it with the black dial, and wow, it's just such a badass watch.
It's definitely more badass than the other one.
So here's the solid yellow gold on a leather strap.
On a alligator strap.
36, over twice.
Find on the bracelet. I want to know on the bracelet.
Okay, so hold on. So
I want to know on the bracelet.
It's exactly 20,000 Swiss francs.
I told you.
And I promise you, we have not looked this up. Like
I didn't know. I did not know it was exactly 20.
So let's look it up. So it's 20,000 Swiss francs more
on the same amount of gold.
Yeah, virtually the same amount.
Virtually the same. Because remember, the one that we just said the price of is the gold case on the strap, and the one that's 36,000 Swiss francs. The one that's 16,000 is the two-tone, but it has a gold bezel and the gold center link all the way around.
And gold crown.
Okay, and then on the bracelets,
44.
Drum roll, 44,000. So when this came out, we were like, that's nice. We're never going to even feasibly be able to afford one. And then at 16,000, It's a lot closer.
and it actually looks just so much more tasteful. It's still a large watch, but it's
Well, they changed the hour markers, right?
yes, they did. It's baton markers now, which looks way better. I think it works much better with the month indicator.
Is there anything else they've changed there? I'm trying to see.
No, the hands are the same, and now this the GMT disc is the same color as the dial. So previously it was always a mismatched.
Oh, it was
pretty
awful.
much always,
It was
yeah.
awful. I don't know why they did that.
It was standing out like a sore thumb. You know, it was not.
No, they definitely made this a lot better. Okay, so the
much better.
two-tone Sky Dweller, that's the one
That's
for you?
for me, and for you.
Okay, so that's the one that stands out as being a watch you want. For me, there's the things that I think of aren't necessarily things I want. Let me start with Rolex. Basel World 2017 was the first year that I can remember that we didn't have Rolex on the top 10 list. And that wasn't because they didn't have good watches, but the moon phase, in my opinion, was too niche. It's the Cellini moon phase, which I actually still think about. That one still comes to mind.
Yeah.
The Cellini moon phase for just being pretty.
Yeah, it's true. It's
And
a pretty
then
watch.
there was the
new
Sea Dweller.
Yeah.
which
Newish. Whatever.
it just didn't feel special enough.
No, not
There was no innovation in it, and I wanted to like that watch a lot more than I did. Maybe I just have to wear it and feel it, but I felt like it needed a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um,
Then red text on the dial, which is just ridiculous.
so yeah, so the traditional guys like Rolex, nothing stands out. I'll say the Tag Heuer Octavia
Fine.
as
I
like a
didn't-
good, reasonable buy.
That's not really this year.
Well, the limited edition one.
Yeah, the Jack Heuer.
And it didn't come out until this year in terms of
That's true.
actual being
That's- yeah,
commercial
that's true.
release, so
Yeah.
I didn't get to wear it and review it until this year.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal for me. I'll tell you that the Zenith Defy Lab, I
Yeah.
remember that as being
That's
really impactful, super accurate. They came out with a few limited edition ones, so it was nothing
You mean the
that
21 or the lab?
the lab, the
Yeah,
Defy
yeah.
Lab. More will come out, I guess, a little bit, but I still think about that as being, really impactful. Really, really impactful. It's hard. It's hard. We're here in Switzerland right now visiting Omega, so it's not like they're necessarily fresh on my mind or anything. But I do remember the slightly tweaked Speedmaster Racing as being a watch I really liked. I still think about that one a lot because they shaved a millimeter off the case. Remember that?
In thickness.
Yeah.
Nothing with.
Yeah,
That's the
1 millimeter in thickness off the
Yes.
case. It totally changes the wearing experience.
Yes.
That one I still think is a great buy.
Yeah.
Is it for
That's the
everyone?
one I
No.
reviewed, actually.
Yeah, you liked it. You liked it a
I
lot.
like the looks, yeah.
But it's actually a difficult question because this is not a year that I think there was a lot of exciting products. It was more of a year of the industry trying to handle itself. So I keep thinking back about it. A lot of the watches I think about from the last year were not watches that even came out in the last year.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's funny you should say that. Yeah. These watches could have been released in 2015, 2016, 2014, any time. There's nothing 2017 specific about any of them. Oh, Speedmaster Racing a little bit different, fine. Rolex Sky Dweller in two-tone, fine. Sea Dweller 3 millimeters larger, fine. A random Tag Heuer vintage, really.
You know what's sad? During this conversation, I was trying to ask myself, can I remember any of the watches that we saw at SIHH 2017?
we have thus far not mentioned one single watch from that.
I remember liking the base level IWC Pilot's Watch chronographs. I still think those are a good
I
buy.
was going to say the Da Vinci actually. But it's still an IWC, so we both actually remember IWC.
I remember the booth that had nothing to do with the brand. The Cinderella Storyland of IWC.
Hilarious.
That was not the
I'm
proudest
actually
moment.
I'm kind of disappointed in IWC making women's watches now. I mean, their motto to this day is engineered for men. I'm not sexist or anything like that. I don't want a women's brand to start making men's watches, okay?
Well,
I
they
don't want
make
that.
women's watches engineered for men. What part do you not understand?
All of it. I can't help it.
It's engineered for men. Maybe not to wear, but it's engineered for men. They can still use it.
just how minutely small, like infinite small, would that IWC women's watch market be that they had to go for it? Like, they still went for it, but it's extremely small.
We know how the watch industry works. Someone says, hey, there's potential growth in the women's market. And they're like, they jump all over it.
My Excel sheet is telling me we are not making any women's watches, which is true because you're freaking IWC. You've not made a women's watch ever.
I mean, Richemont owns Cartier. Okay? That's the only women's watch brand they need. Piaget makes nice jewelry ones along with Cartier.
Yes.
Okay?
There's fun.
Apparently, some people buy Vacheron women's watches. They're nice, but very expensive. Van Cleef is great, but super boutique.
Super niche. Yeah.
Super boutique. Mont Blanc has women's watches. I love how we're talking about the most memorable watches, thinking about Mont Blanc women's watches. Which
we are getting sidetracked because nothing is keeping us focused on memorable watches from SIHH.
It's hard.
We were both there.
We were there. We were there. We were there. Wow. I mean,
we have a vlog to prove we were there. I mean, if the vlog didn't exist, people could reasonably say, "Hey, you guys."
we go to these meetings, and I'm like, "Show us something new. Show us something new. Show us something new."
Here's a new blue dial.
Look, you know what? I still very much like the undone urban chronograph. You know, between $250 and about $300.
Was undone at the SIHH?
I think Barry was with us.
Well,
that was actually no at Basel World. That's at Basel, not at SIHH.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying it's a watch that was released in 2017. I'm not someone that is buying $300 watches, but if that's sort of the peak of what I could afford, I'd be all about that.
That sounds really stuffy. What do you mean you're not buying $300 watches? How dare you?
How dare I not buy $300?
You actually just bought the freaking G-Shock.
I did. I think, okay. I've been thinking a lot about smartwatches, and then I think I've been thinking more about Japanese watches in 2017 than probably any other nation's watches.
Well, that's true.
Except Switzerland.
We are rambling here, but since we're talking Japanese watches, you know, a lot of it for me at least, but I know for you as well, was just we were thinking about Japanese watches and at the same time asking why, just why? Why are you getting so expensive? Why are you calling yourself Grand Seiko? Is that different from Seiko in any way?
I really miss the watches where it said Seiko on the dial twice.
Yes. I'm wearing one right now.
Seiko Grand Seiko.
Yes. Which is how it should be.
Not anymore. Okay, but isn't it a little bit nerdy to take a brand's decision to just change some of the things on the dial and complain about it? Like, that's nitpicking.
No. I agree. I hate it when people do this. I genuinely don't like it.
But in this instance,
we are being fair because Seiko made a big deal out of it. We don't care if this just happened, but they're saying, you know, we are repositioning the brand by not calling it Seiko, we're calling it Grand Seiko only. It's a new start for Grand Seiko. It isn't. You just took 5 letters off a dial, but it still says Seiko somewhere else on the same dial.
Why is it that when watch brands make decisions, no matter how legitimate the decisions are, they can't seem to explain to us why they made those decisions without sounding like they're lying through their teeth?
Because these are not legitimate decisions. Like, a legitimate decision speaks for itself. People say, oh, yeah, that. Okay, that makes sense.
It's like they would be better off not explaining it all. I'm not saying that okay, it's not Seiko. It's a lot of brands will make marketing decisions. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
And then rather than just like explaining why they really did that decision, they come up with these nonsense stories.
Yeah.
Or I'll ask questions where it's a clarification. Like, you just said you did this. Could you explain why? And they just can't do it. Like, words come out of their mouth, but no actual explanation.
The person sitting in front of you is possibly not the one who made the decision. She or he may be a PR director or whatever, but this random decision that you happen to be asking about is just someone else.
Oh, so no one's explaining themselves at these companies, what you're saying?
No,
okay.
This is what we're doing. I guess.
So for G-Shock, I spent a lot of time thinking about G-Shock last year, but not necessarily just the new ones. I think with the new ones, like, I'm really waiting for Casio's smartwatches to hit their stride, where there's like, I'll call it the traditional G-Shock experience, but as a fully connected watch. Now they have ones that dabble.
Yeah.
You know, they're starting to get into watches that communicate with Bluetooth on a more they aren't smartwatches. They, of course, make the smartwatches. So they're playing with it. They're getting better. I guess I'm really excited about where Casio will go. I think that one of the defining things about the watches that I remember from the year are ones that actually have novelty value. Do something new, do something better. The Zenith with its, very accurate movement that's going to be a production model.
Yeah. Or even
smartwatches.
Already. It's pretty novel what it does. I mean, sorry to interrupt. I'm saying you're giving a really good example of a Zenith there.
I think what I've also been thinking about from 2017 are, I don't even know the best way of putting them in a category. Like, you remember the Bulgari Octo Finissimo Automatic?
Yes.
What category does that watch live in?
Awesome.
Oh, okay. When you put it like that, I feel so stupid.
Sorry, I know. That was me.
When talking about awesome watches,
it's a casual watch. That's what I would say. Like a casual watch. It's not something. It does a lot of things, but it's also something. If you need one watch, I guess it could be just.
But it's also from a company which prides itself on being a design company.
And
so it's a designer casual watch.
Just because it looks a little bit more interesting than any other round watch.
I mean, look, it has an interesting design.
Yeah.
It has an innovative mechanical movement. It has an aesthetic that's a little bit different. I mean, in addition to having novel design, it doesn't look like everything else. And it's from a company that has a equal amount of design legitimacy and watchmaking legitimacy. And I think
gets no credit for either of those things. Not enough credit.
A couple of years ago, I would have agreed with you, but I think we've changed that a lot.
We've helped for that to change for the better a lot. I'm not saying it didn't. There's no difference between now and 2015 or 14 even. But yeah, they still have a long way to go.
But it's watches like that, which are casual, like you said, have a dressiness to it, an elegance. There's a sex appeal to them that can be worn in a versatile way, like not just with a suit or not just as sporty clothes, but that really emphasize design or having a good design. And I'm getting more and more picky when it comes to getting watches that don't look like other watches. Like, I do not want to buy a watch that could be easily mistaken for another watch.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Like, I find myself increasingly wanting to get things that if you see what it is, I'm not saying I want everyone to be able to identify it for what it is, but if I'm looking at my collection of watches, I don't want to be like, what is that? Oh,
is that a Chrono Swiss, or is that some other whatever it is?
That's the first time you've ever brought up Chrono Swiss, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
Chrono Swiss, we have not thought of you
for the longest time.
Several years, actually. I think maybe back in 2014 was...
I don't know why I said it. But it looks kind of bland. Well, not with that ugly bezel, but it still gets...
I mean, it came to mind. It came to mind. How did that happen?
Well... What? Is that I'm tripping over it? Oh, well.
He was stepping on my cord. Always stepping on my cord, David. What else did we remember for 2017? I mean, again, the whole point is to ask what sticks out on our mind. We're not trying to be difficult here or overly picky, but the reality is that it takes a lot, I guess, to have something wrong. I'm thinking about brands like Hamilton. I like Hamilton. I literally cannot think of one watch they released in 2017.
For the last 7 years.
I know they came out with new watches. They must have.
No, they came out with new SKUs.
Oh.
That's what it is.
Longines, I can think of 2 or 3 new. I mean, they come out with so many new products.
Heritage that.
There's the VPH. Do you think...
I couldn't explain to you how that is new. I'm sure there's a weird way how that is new.
The movement?
Is that a completely new movement?
It's supposed to be.
Very high performance.
VPH?
Yeah.
Or is it VH? Oh, is it not? It's VHP, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm getting dyslexic all over again. Sorry. VPH just rolls off the tongue. I think it's very high precision.
Very horsepower.
Yes.
That's my kind of watch.
Very high horsepower?
That's very horsepower.
So the question there is, and I've asked myself this several times, is it time for high-end quartz to come back as something which is not as traditional or old as mechanical watches, but has more nostalgia value versus smartwatches?
Well, it would take more than just an old school movement. It would take like the packaging is really important.
The packaging? Like the box that comes in?
No, sorry, it's just how the movement is packaged, it's in like the casing, the design, etc. So if you say retro quartz, what does that mean? Does that mean Casio F91 or does that mean like some weird dress watch that ticks?
I think the key for any successful high-end quartz watch, or many of them, is to do something that a mechanical watch can't. I'm not saying it has to have like a digital element to it, but I really like the idea of it asserting its value by saying more than just you psychologically knowing that this movement is the type of movement it is. There's some functionality,
Yeah.
something.
Even something that's extremely niche and well, let's just go with that. You remember you had like some of those Grand Seiko divers that had these very specific stepper motors that
The 9F movements?
Yeah, that was like nailing like every single index all the time. And it's like so satisfying.
Thinking about it makes me
Yeah,
happy right now. I wish it was here right now. I could just look at that seconds hand, perfectly line up.
It's as good as any sweeping seconds hand on any mechanical watch.
But it's not sweeping.
That's what. Yeah, but it's
as
good.
emotionally
Yes.
gratifying.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So we're getting
because
back.
you can think about, you look at it, and when you're looking at it, you know and you're well aware of how much stuff there is going on behind the dial.
But I'm not interested in anything but the best quartz.
Yes, yes.
Like,
Thermo super atom compensate.
like, you know, it's some of the most boring watches in the world to me that like still would appeal to someone if they're not a watch lover. A watch with like a quartz chronograph, like an ETA quartz chronograph. You know what I mean? You know,
with the sleep immediately.
yeah. Like I'd rather just have three hands.
Like, yeah, exactly.
But there's like those three ones.
two.
You know?
Or two hands. I would have two hands and a quartz move.
Two-hand quartz is nice.
Like a Cartier tank or something like that.
As long as it's elegant and
Yeah.
does something like thin.
Yeah.
But the quartz chronograph.
Oh,
Think of
no.
like a Tissot quartz
Yeah.
chronograph. And
You know,
the thing is,
if you're out there with one of those watches and you like it, more power to you. It's perfect.
those people are already writing their death threats to us. They're already writing it down.
I'm wearing my Tissot reference.
Look, there's
whatever.
nothing. The thing is that I'm laughing about is I can't think of anything wrong with those watches. They're not bad performance. They're usually a good value, but I'm bored by them.
Come to think of it, I actually had a friend of mine who ended up with the Tissot quartz chronograph like that. It was several years ago.
He ended up with it. What does that mean? Like he broke up with a watch he really liked, and he had a rebound, and it was the Tissot. Like what is that?
It's hilarious. You should say that. That is literally what happened. He went into the store. He picked a Tissot chronograph that was mechanical because of like, okay, I'm going mechanical, and he chose the watch, and he started the chronograph on the mechanical one, and then it wouldn't reset to 0. It would reset to like 57 or something like that. It was like broken.
I've been there.
It didn't do it consistently, so it was like here and there and all that kind of stuff. And
Did the company refuse to say anything was wrong?
Yeah, this is a mechanical fine timepiece, handmade in whatever.
These things happen.
And then he said, no, screw it. I would just take the quartz and just save a couple $100 and that's it. And that's how he actually ended up with this quartz chronograph.
And where is he now?
Well, we're no longer friends.
Oh, you broke up with him because he had a quartz Tissot?
No, I'm just making it up. He still has the watch. That's his only watch.
But you're not friends anymore. That's why you said I had a friend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, basically what we're trying to say is that if you accidentally get a quartz chronograph watch, you will lose your friends. You'll lose your friends. We don't know how it happens, but you'll lose your friends.
It's hysterical, but it's such an amazing story. So
You just couldn't be seen with them anymore.
If you settle for this quartz chronograph, your social life.
Reminds me of the South Park episode where, like, if you have the wrong friend on social media, you lose all your other ones.
Yeah, they all.
Okay, let's get back to the topic at hand because we really need to think about more watches that we remember that are not ones that piss us off.
So I will look up our tags. SIH, you know.
I love how we have no. The whole point is ones we don't look at it. Don't refresh your recollection.
That's right.
David is cheating by Googling this.
No, I'm using our tag. It's Basel 2017.
Okay, but for me, it has to be things that you close your eyes and what comes to mind.
Nothing. My mind is just completely.
You know how I think of a lot is, and it's silly because it's not like I have this much money, but as like status watches. There's plenty of watches out there with diamonds and things like that.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking to myself, if I end up illegitimately making several $1 million, I think in order to communicate to that to the world, I need to get a Jacob and Company watch. I think there's no better watch to just brazenly assert wealth than a Jacob and Company. Can you think of others? I mean, yes, you. No, not even close, man. Not even close. I'll tell you what. Diamonds. Diamonds. Well. I'm not talking any Jacob and Company. Wow. I'm talking about a watch covered in diamonds.
Are the diamond covered Richard Milles?
Not for men.
Damn it. That's a niche. We should reach out immediately.
Diamond covered Richard Milles. How many millions do you want these watches to cost?
All of them. All the millions.
All the millions?
Richard Mille is not using diamonds because they're too weak and brittle. They're like that. They're using NDP.
You know what he's going to do? He's going to come... Because you know how I did the Sapphire case watch? Just go straight to diamond.
Just one block of... Just carve it out. Just carve it out.
Yeah, we can only buy one. We took a really big uncut stone. Yeah. Like a whole fist. And it was a great stone, and it could have been used for... God knows what, but we butchered it into a watch case.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. I want that.
And it actually broke, so we couldn't make the watch. But we have a good story to tell you.
We took the rest of the diamond and just threw it in the sea.
We end up knowing people in the course of what we do that have a lot more money than us. And I know people that buy Richard Mille and things like that. And they always tell me that they get pissed off because unless you're in the room with the right kind of person that would know what it is, no one recognizes it.
That's the point. That's the point of Richard Mille.
Okay, some people don't like that, and they get the diamond ones because they want, the people at the restaurant, the whoever's seeing them, to be like, oh, so shiny, how can I help you? And with
Swarovski? Is that Swarovski? Sorry.
Is that real Swarovski?
Can I bring you a complimentary glass of water?
I don't know what it is. I think that maybe it's just because I know what it feels like to wear one of those watches. I got a little taste. I should have never let myself put on any diamond watches. I could have been like any other self-respecting watch critic and hate diamond watches. Yes. But I feel like I got this.
Like it. They secretly freaking everyone loves diamonds. Everyone.
Wait a minute.
Shape or form.
So I'm the only one that's honest about it? Because literally all of our colleagues, you put a diamonds anywhere and they just roar. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're right, though.
For diamond arm markers. That's my thing. It's
like that one, the Hublot that I liked, the Night Out.
Yes, that was pretty dope.
Oh god, I want that watch.
And I want a Rolex with diamond arm markers. That's a day-date 40 in yellow gold with diamond arm markers.
I still like the Submariner with diamond hour markers.
Ugh. Why?
Why not?
Why would you?
Because it's the most subtle thing ever. It's the last watch you'd ever expect to have diamond hour markers.
Well.
Someday I'm going to find one of those, and I'm going to wear it, and you're going to be like, you were right.
And I will wear the Day-Date 40, and you will be like, God, that's the one I should have gotten.
The Day-Date 40?
Yes.
Well, they're not the same. They don't cost the same.
Whatever.
Look, between the two, I'd rather have the Day-Date 40. Let's be honest.
So I convinced you, and you have not convinced me.
I'm just saying, in our dream collections, are you looking at the Night Out?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, if you're listening to the podcast, what you have to imagine is an Hublot Classic Fusion with a black case, whatever it is. I guess it's ceramic or...
Of course it's ceramic.
It could be ADLC, whatever.
Really, at Hublot?
No, okay, fine. Some weird titanium mine from
Do you like the shiny patent leather strap?
No, that I seriously...
I love it.
Ugh.
It's so delicious. Not the Tourbillon.
Oh, the Tourbillon is dope.
It's dope, but that's like 100,000. Whatever.
I actually, yeah, the classic Fusion I really like a lot.
That's the if I had to get a classic Fusion, it'd be that one.
Yeah, I like the one with the tourbillon actually more.
With the
How much
tourbillon?
is this? How much is this going for? God damn it, that's Chopard.
The funny thing about this show is like we're basically recording what we do
Yeah, in our
when
free
there
time.
isn't a camera.
Yes.
So if everyone's wondering why we're doing this,
Yeah.
it's that we're already doing it. We just figured like, hey, you should join us.
16,000 for the non-tourbillon night out.
That's extremely consistent in those prices.
Yes.
Thank you, Wingu watches.
Wingu watches.
When you want a trusted Swiss watch, I go to Wingu. Wingu. Where's
right.
Wingu?
I wish this didn't have a cellular movement. It was just bugging me all the time.
By the way, this came out in 2014, not 2017.
Oh, did it not? Well.
Did you got pretty excited about the Hublot, what do they call it? The Techno Frame, Exo Frame?
Tech frame.
Tech Frame.
It's not for disco Partisan, it's a Ferrari.
Sorry, I forgot that it was called Tech
No,
Frame.
actually, I was curious. I was looking forward to seeing it based on pictures, but then it's half a mile long or tall or whatever you want to call it.
It's not good for wrists that aren't very large. That is true.
Yes. I'm not sure why not. Yeah, no, you would have to have like Schwarzenegger size like wrists, like huge wrists. It's super long.
I thought of another watch from 2017 I remembered.
Okay.
The Joker. The Konstantin
Is that
Chaikin
from
Joker.
this year? I thought it was from last year.
No.
I love the Joker so much. That's one of my
Then I don't even
watches
remember
of
where it
all
came-
time.
Really?
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know if you're being sarcastic.
No,
'Cause it's
that is genuinely one of my favorite watches of all time.
But I had to bring it up.
Yeah, because like I said, I thought it was from last year.
But you had no problem talking about plenty of other watches from years ago.
Because I didn't have the Joker on my mind. I'm not saying I have it on my mind all the time when we're talking about freaking Hublot.
I think about it twice an hour.
Okay, from now on, if Aria brings up a watch, I will say yes. But do you remember the Konstantin Chaikin Joker just to prove that I like it?
Okay,
I like
so
it a lot.
let's remind people what this is. Konstantin Chaikin is, I guess, Russia's best watchmaker. Very clever guy. And what he did is he made a watch where it had the time with the separated disc for the hours and minutes, and like an upside down. I guess it's not. An like upside down moon phase indicator.
Yeah.
And he used those two discs to be eyes,
Yeah.
with the pupil being the hand and the moon phase being like a mouth.
Yeah.
And so as the day and month changed, so would the expression on the
Yes.
face.
Yeah, so basically you have one disc that rotates once every 12 hours, and you have one disc that rotates every 60 minutes. So it's like, sometimes it's like cross-eyed, sometimes it's the sarcastic.
It's all kinds of weird googly
And
eyes.
the whole thing is set up to look like a Joker's face. It has like this red mouth, and it's like... It's a really weird looking watch, but it's just super funny. I like it. It's such an honest, funny watch. It's great. I love it.
But let's talk
And it's
more
good size, too.
about why we like it. I mean, saying it's honest and funny, that's not enough. What did he do right in a watch like that?
You know, when I wear a watch... No, I've not worn a bland, boring watch in a long time. I just don't see myself wearing one. I don't care. I don't, my time with watches is
Well,
too
tell
precious.
people what you think is bland and boring.
Anything
like,
that they think is bland and boring, pretty much I'm sure I will think the same thing.
Okay. So life's too short for bland, boring watches.
So when I look at it, I want it to make me feel somewhat. I want it from some of the clothes. I don't wear a large variety of clothes. I like wearing the same clothes a lot of the times because it's mine. And that's how I consider it. So it should not be boring. It should be something that relates to me. And this watch tells me everyone can go and stuff themselves. I don't need to impress them. I want to have fun even when I look at my watch. That's what I feel about it.
Hold on a second. I agree with you, but when you say that you don't want to impress them and you want to have fun with your watch, I think the primary motivation you have in the minute is to wear something that gives you a positive emotion. I don't think you don't care about them. I just don't think you're thinking about what other people think about. You're wearing it purely out of and I'm not saying
Selfish. Yeah, it's a selfish.
it's not a bad thing to be
No.
selfish in this context.
No, not at all.
But it's a watch to communicate something to you who's wearing it
Yes.
versus other people that would see it on you.
But if you're wearing a watch to impress others, that's a selfish thing as well. Because you want their reassurance and their feedback to yourself. That's what makes you feel good. And that's perfectly fine. That's your prerogative. But here I just want to look at something and I think, okay, this is a guy who looked at the watch, when I look at it, I try and imagine his thinking process. Like, oh, I would just take a Joker's face and just stick it in the watch.
I think, look, I mean, I guess you could make an argument that doing things in order to please others has a selfish component, but I think doing something exclusively to please you is probably more selfish along the continuum.
Sure. Yeah.
I think what Konstantin Chaikin did correctly was, first, the thing had to look good, so he made sure that it had a compelling design. We've seen a lot of watches in the past that have clever complications that look like ass.
Very good point.
Like, just look like ass. Yeah. It's like, you have a cool system here. Did you just stop after you made it and just throw it into some random ass, case?
But this is what separates, and I'm using superlatives here, but this is what makes a design a genius design. When you have a good idea and everything falls together, when it's like an inspired moment.
Look.
The Joker is an inspired watch.
I've been doing a lot more design myself lately, and one of the things I've learned is that design is the verb. So when you say something has a design to it, you're basically implying that people put effort.
Yeah.
That people put effort into it.
More or less.
And so I think a better thing to say rather than it had a design or a good design is that it had effort. Because if you put effort into a design, rarely is it going to come out horrible. Why? Because you tried your best not to make it bad.
Yeah.
When we see bad designs, what we're basically saying is you didn't put effort into that. So in addition to this looking good, it has a very clever set of complications, and it also understands very directly that the toys we as men have are best when they make the user happy.
That's exactly it. I totally agree with the last bit. Yeah. Effort is put into a lot of things that actually don't work out in the end. So you cannot say just because something is bad, no effort went into it. Yeah, there's a lot of lazily designed watches out there.
The majority of bad watches that we see are bad as a result of not having enough effort.
Here's one thing that keeps popping up in my mind lately more often than before is, some people say like, oh, you look at a man, you look at his shoe and his watch and you can tell what kind of man he is or whatever. Like, you can tell some basic things.
From his one shoe.
Whatever. Hopefully two. And if you look at a watch, you can tell a lot about a watch based on its hands. If a lot of the watches out there, like a lot, from prestige brands, from ultra luxury brands, blah blah blah. If they have messed up hands, if they have cheap hands, if they have illegible hands, there's certainly something else wrong with that watch. You start digging and you realize, okay, it's like this and that movement or whatever. You will figure it out, or maybe the case is garbage. I have not seen a crappy watch with amazing hands. Never ever. If there's a crappy watch, or it's not going to have amazing hands.
Once in a while there is, but they're a direct copy. They just copy something good.
It's on from some other place.
Yeah.
It's like but when actually someone takes time to say, okay, I'm putting this hand, and look at this Joker, and it has no hands. It has two discs with pupils on it. It's so far from a watch having hands as it can possibly be. It's still legible. It still functions, and this is the watch that I'm just realizing this right now, that this has the most messed up hands ever, because these are not even hands, and this is the watch that I like.
One more thing that makes this watch very memorable. In its weird way, I think you'll agree it's a chick magnet.
Is it?
How is it not? There's a face on your wrist that's going to totally draw attention. I'm not saying it's going to attract every woman.
I have not looked at it that way, but I agree. Why wouldn't it?
Okay, think of watches that in a environment where you want to attract the attention of whoever it is you want to attract attention from, and you need things on yourself that are comfortable conversation starters. Is this not...
It is.
Okay, so it's not only a conversation starter, but it doesn't have a nerdy design because it's decorative enough.
Yes.
And nerdy designs are what push women away.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Can I tell you about the Ignicolor dial? This technology was invented in 1940 whenever in a basement.
So it's it's a watch that appeals on many levels.
Yeah.
Look, I think that this is one of the most effective watches. I'm not saying it's the best watch of 2017. I don't choose that.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of combining the values that you and I have in a watch,
Yeah.
the Konstantin Chaikin Joker might combine them better than any other watch of the year.
It ticks all the boxes. Yeah, or any other watch, or most other watches in a long time.
And you know what the funny thing is? Because he's a real, like, independent watchmaker,
Yeah.
he's, like, years out.
Yeah.
So, you know, people want to buy this watch, and they
This is a
can't.
recent thing, just to be clear, so it's not like we just heard this recently that he's out.
Yes,
Yeah.
we communicate with
it
him
didn't
regularly.
happen, yeah, so it doesn't happen overnight, but he's like happy. It's doing really well. There's a limit to how many he can produce because the dial and the nose of the thing, and of course the movement itself.
And you know what I know
Okay.
for sure? Because I know this man. He's not going to be like, oh, I'm the Joker brand now. He's not just going to make these and that's it. A lot of other brands would ride that until it's dead.
Yes.
He will do it, and then he'll change it to something completely different. And if he revisits it,
He will-
it'll be in its own special way.
He will make one of those weird 3 feet tall clocks, next week. When he's like out of the Joker thing, he will be like, okay, I'm gonna make one of these weird Russian clocks now. He made like some of those extremely complicated.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
astronomical-
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, with pillars and like it's like an actual like a temple or whatever.
Oh, you're the one you're
Yeah,
talking about?
no.
How do you even move those things? That's a whole other story.
Yeah, well,
Okay, so I think this is a good place to end because we talked
Yeah.
about something that we really like, we both agree on.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be more watches like this, watches with faces on them, literal faces that are not static.
and FU watches. If you ask someone, what is an FU watch, they would say, what's an FU watch?
What is an FU
It's
watch?
a Rolex Pepsi because nobody knows it's $40,000, but actually it's a $40,000 watch. To some extent.
He's
yeah, it's
describing me right now. That's what I say.
No, and I've heard it actually a lot of times. And then you arrive at this 7,000 or 8,000, 7,000 Swiss franc Konstantin Chaikin, and you say this is an FU watch.
Well, I mean, it doesn't say FU in the sense that I just blew a bunch of money because this
No.
watch is a much better value.
It says FU because I didn't need to blow a bunch of money. It was still expensive, but it's made well. It's coming from one guy that I know.
I wonder what the value of these are going to be like a few years from now. There's no way these are going to lose a bunch of money.
It has appeal to okay, this is interesting. It really grew on me the moment when I saw it hands on, and you have to see it hands on. That's the thing.
You do. Well,
And that's why that really works against the value, because some guy sitting in front of Chrono 24 10 years from now is not going to say, I want one of those weird Joker watches. No, if you see it hands on, you will want it. I'm pretty sure you will want it. That's how we ended up. So yeah, this I didn't mention at the start of the conversation because I didn't realize it was from this year. That's my mistake. Well, yeah, there we are.
not
Konstantin
only
Chaikin.
can we not tell time, we don't know the date either.
It was actually I was going to say this. This is a long year. This was a long year, and that's why
This was a long year, and
Oh,
it's almost
jeez.
done. I'm interested to see where we'll be a year from now. David, it's good spending time with you.
My pleasure. See you guys a little bit later.